Welcome to Storytime. I'm your host and author, Cherie Baker. Today we'll be reading from Coffee Cakes and Dragon Eggs, a cozy fantasy set in modern-day England. Enjoy! Chapter 8. The next day, Toby Shepherd parked in his reserved spot behind the brick and stucco building on a busy, but not overly expensive, side street at precisely 6:30. Motorway traffic always flowed freely this early in the day. Shame the rest of his staff didn't see the benefit of being up with the larks. He climbed out of the top-coloured Skoda, strolled to the employee entrance at the back of the building, unlocked the metal shutters, and then the deadbolt on the door. Couldn't be too careful. Even with security cameras, things have been going missing lately. He tromped up the stairs, triggering the motion-sensitive lights in the open-plan office where his staff worked. As expected, each one of the half-dozen workstations with their very own computer sat empty and unused at this time of day. Toby strode to the only desk with pens, post-it notes, and tools spread across the pale beach-colored melamine. This untidiness didn't inspire much faith in actually fixing the computer problems. Toby wouldn't have even bothered to call the IT agency, but the hairdresser that rented the shop below alluded she wouldn't pay her rent until he sorted out these internet glitches. Toby tapped his finger on a note with a long list of numbers. Surely someone had explained the hot desk scheme to this weirdo. It wasn't new. The policy had been implemented after he attended last year's bloody waste of time and money, the Mega Builders Conference. The only good thing about the show was this cost-saving idea that could squeeze twice as many salesmen into the office, since the award his firm had been nominated for was given to some fancy eco-warrior green everything multi-family complex. Toby swept the items into the bin, then proceeded to his own office, unlocked the door, and flipped on the lights. A dim rumble of traffic from the street below welcomed him into his space. The large window overlooking the Indian takeaway opposite was the only decoration he needed or wanted. He was here to work, not idle the day away staring at pretty pictures. He flung his jacket on the top of the bookcase, containing the only good thing he'd inherited from his family, Granddad's almanacs. He wasn't even sure why he kept the musty leather-bound book. Bloody thing weren't interesting, and he certainly had no sentimental thoughts about the old codgers, but the fellow had a very particular habit of recording every weather-related happening. It had given Toby's construction firm a leg up, and he built twice as many homes as the average builder. The rest of the bookcase contained important documents, construction regulations, building codes, trade magazines. They took up a whole wall, dominating the room, but it was important to be informed. Toby plopped into his worn swivel chair, ignoring the squeak of protest, and clicked the computer's keyboard. Nothing happened, until he banged on the side of the PC. The little fan inside coughed into life, and the monitor refreshed. He opened his email and scrolled through the long list of new messages. He'd only managed to read half the correspondences when the office lights flicked on again. He leaned over to see who was the first staff of the day. Although 8 was technically late in his mind, it wasted the best part of the morning. The IT guy, Raj, rushed in, glanced around, and slumped when he saw the light in Toby's office. The 20-something man wore a bright silver waistcoat under his blue jacket. Anyone dressed that colorfully looked like a cartoon villain, especially with that twirly mustache. I don't know what he was thinking. Never inspired confidence in any client. Toby pressed his intercom button. "Do you think that's appropriate?" What? A pained expression passed over the young man's eye. Although the startling attire didn't suit an office, Toby knew better than to press the issue too much. His HR advisor had been very clear about that after the last mess he'd gotten into. It was simply one big and expensive misunderstanding, quite frankly. He hadn't even considered what his comments might have inferred about the girl's lifestyle. Toby sighed. Determining how to say, "That suit is too garish for an office," in the right way made him feel sick, so he just turned his attention to other things. "Tea time, skimmed milk, 1 sugar." Toby turned off the intercom and went back to his emails. A few minutes later, Raj entered, put the mug on the desk. Toby glanced at the cup. The liquid was very nearly chocolate brown. "And what is that?" Raj looked startled. "Didn't you ask for tea?" Toby pointed to the saucer on the corner of his desk, containing a dried-out tea bag. "There was a perfectly good one over there. It's only been used once, yesterday. That was at least 2 more dunks in it, enough to last until lunchtime. Now you've gone and put this in the mix. So which one do we use? Do we remember which one has 1 dunk and which one has 2? Toby scowled at the arrogant youth. Too many options lead to confusion. Raj looked back at his boss in surprise. "It's a tea bag? They cost less than 10 pence? Toby snorted. "That's exactly why your generation's complaining about the price of housing. You never learned how much pennies matter. I expect your wages are spent on those glad rags as soon as it hits your bank account." He waved contemptuously at the flashy waistcoat. "Today's youth simply need to learn how to save up. Yes, it's hard. You won't have all the pretty things, but you'll have security." Raj stiffened at the rebuke. "I'm not sure why I'm even making the tea. I'm supposed to be sorting out your computer glitch." "I'm paying your tab, so I'll decide what you do. And a few extra housekeeping chores will hardly end the world, now will they?" Ross shook his head and laid a pile of paper in the wire basket on the edge of Toby's desk. "You've no idea, sir. And there's your Morning Post." "You may go." Toby snatched the envelopes as soon as they landed in the tray and waved at the door. Raj flashed a very grim approximation of a smile and left, pulling the door closed slightly more firm than necessary. Toby shook his head. Why was it so difficult to get decent help? Raj was his 4th secretary this year. He wouldn't hesitate to contact the agency for another one if the man carried on with that attitude. Toby leafed through the letters. The first 3 were from last year's buyers, moaning about the state of the roads, as if builders had nothing better to do than fill in potholes. He tossed them in the bin. The next was a funding request. God only knew why the lad hadn't just thrown that away when it arrived. Toby had worked hard all his life. Blind, homeless kittens or some such silly thing were not going to benefit from the sweat of his brow. At the bottom of the pile were 2 curious letters, a heavy envelope from the council, and a lavender one with shaky handwriting. Toby tore open the council's correspondence. A smile broke out on his cheeks. The imbeciles had finally granted a change of use for that stony wasteland his grandpa had called a farm. About time they agreed it was completely useless. The final letter was a lousy reminder. He had one person could still call him family. Why hadn't that old bat died already? Toby tapped the envelope on the desk. It was too early to be Aunt Violet's annual birthday greeting. Something must be pressing on her mind. The handwritten address was barely legible. If her arthritis was that bad, the letter was most likely asking for money. Although he'd spent the first 5 years of his life at Shepherd's Mill, Toby only had vague memories of the place. He could recall the sprawling green hills, along with the smell of sheep and cows, and the amazing views from his own bedroom in the mill where his mother and father lived, with an ugly, mean yellow dog. Nasty little thing. Must have mange or something. Don't remember any fur on it. It always stole his books, and it bit him when he tried to get them back. He still had a mark on his hand from their last quarrel, when father refused to have it put down, and Mum had the good sense to escape the decrepit stone pit and the country bumpkins. His useless father and grandparents never even visited after that, or helped in any way. Aunt Violet sent him a card every year, but there wasn't ever a birthday gift, not even a token gesture of £5. His mum, God rest her soul, was right to get them out when she did. The Shepherd clan were mean, terrible people. He wanted nothing to do with them. Toby started to chuck the card in the bin with the charity rubbish when a thought crossed his mind. The only good thing that could come from this. After he went over to the farm in Shepherdsdale to draw up plans for the new development, he'd wander down to the mill and gloat how successful he'd become despite their treatment of him, show what it felt like to need a helping hand and have it slapped away. If you've enjoyed this section, please like and subscribe. New chapters will be recorded weekly. Alternatively, check out the description for places to purchase the book.